As Russia increases its attacks on Ukraine, it seems as though the world is watching the country's president unravel. Putin is claiming that he's invading Ukraine to, quote, denazify it. And who can forget the meetings Putin has held where the focal point has actually been an extremely long table, as you can see there, only then to outdo himself a few days later, holding another meeting at an even longer table. So strange. There are even reports that Putin fears being poisoned. So he's having people taste his food before he eats it. NBC has not independently confirmed this point. Even his speeches are becoming longer and even more unhinged as he creates more devastation all in around inside of Ukraine. Take a listen to what he had to say yesterday.
Но любой народ, а тем более российский народ, всегда сможет отличить истинных патриотов от подонков и предателей и просто выплюнет их, как случайно залетевшую в рот мушку, выплюнет на панель. Убежден, такое естественное и необходимое самоочищение общества только укрепит нашу страну.
Here to discuss is Jeffrey Edmonds. He's the former director for Russia on the National Security Council and Ukrainian-American and Democratic strategist. Aaron Parnas is back with us. Jeffrey, I'll start with you. I mean, you saw a little clip there of Putin's comments. He's seeming unhinged over the course of the last couple of weeks, even more so than previously. What do you make of those comments yesterday?
So I think it's a sign that he is becoming even more entrenched in the narratives that he's developed over years. But now you have the added driver that he's by himself largely. I mean, there aren't a lot of people that interact with him, and so he has these narratives in his mind about, he lives in a political system where leaders don't face necessarily very good ends, but also the narratives about the U.S. always seeking to overthrow the Russian regime, and by himself, with increasing pressure around him, I agree. I think he's kind of becoming unhinged from reality and kind of living in this weird narrative world that he's created for himself.
And Jeffrey, just a quick follow-up. Fiona Hill of Democratic and Republican administrations, expert on Putin, wrote the biography on Putin. She's quoted as saying that she sort of has this picture in her head of him during the last few years of the pandemic in the attic of the Kremlin, like surrounded by dusty old maps. I mean, I don't know if that's actually true. She says it almost as a joke, but she's like, he sounds like he actually has been someone doing that. I mean, is that what you hear, him steeped in this history that is maybe like on Game of Thrones style maps that are, shredded around the edges and brown?
Right. So when you go back a number of years before COVID and other things, the Russian leadership had certain complaints that, while a lot of them were based on false assumptions, there was a certain logic to them, right? But like over the last year, you saw him write this really long article about Ukraine and going back thousands of years and about Russian history that's all really kind of jumbled together and doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I agree with Fiona. I think that very much he's been isolated. Has this kind of sense of historic importance, whether obviously misplaced, where he thinks he's delivering Russia from some kind of state of humiliation after the end of the Cold War. Only what he's doing now is delivering them back into a state of humiliation once again.
And Aaron, I mean, he definitely sounds like somebody who's, operating with his own set of facts. Let's just say that. I mean, how do you think we got here to the point where he's calling people scum?
Well, I think it's a lot about, it has to do with his desperation. I think Putin is a very desperate leader right now. I think what we've seen over the past 3 weeks is that Putin's military offensive has failed. He initially wanted to take Ukraine within 3 hours or 3 days. He failed. And he's becoming increasingly desperate. That's why he's launching now attacks on civilians. That's why there are rumors that he may launch chemical weapons attacks. And that's really how we got here. It's because he's a desperate leader who isn't getting his way, and he's just lashing out.
And Jeffrey, President Biden, yesterday referred to Putin as a war criminal. And this is what he said about Putin earlier today.
Standing together against a murderous dictator, a pure thug who is waging an immoral war against the people of Ukraine.
Jeffrey, do you think President Biden is egging him on a bit here by calling him a thug? I mean, is this why Putin brings up military actions of the West? I mean, how do you think he interprets comments like this?
Well, one, I think the president is right. And two, Aaron's great points. I mean, I think he is very, very desperate. And I would not put almost anything behind him. I think he would use chemical weapons in Ukraine. I think if it becomes even more dire, not to be overly, gloomy about this, but if he feels like he's losing control, I would not put beyond him escalating this conflict into a Russia-NATO conflict, the point there being to call our bluff and try to get us to back off. So I don't think he backs down. Two, he's disconnected from reality. And yeah, I think he's willing to do just about anything to get what he wants in this conflict.
Jeffrey Edmonds and Aaron Parnas, we'll have you both back because I have 10 more questions. I always have a million questions, but I appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much again for being here tonight, and please stay safe.
Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.